Morning, intuitives. I'm going to get back to, my regular videos today. We're going to talk about something INFJ. Please do check out my previous video about John's latest book. I highly recommend you buy the book, but at the very least, listen to me run my mouth about it for 10 minutes and see if you want to buy it. I would also at least recommend that you click the link and, listen to the sample he posted on his YouTube channel, John Atack Family and Friends. I'm being honest with you, I truly did find the book helpful. This isn't just, my personal bias due to my friendship with John. So, that being said, I'm going to get into this topic that I want to discuss today, and it's a good one. This is something INFJs need to understand why it flares up, what triggers it, how to deal with it, and when it's justified. And this is a cornerstone of being an INFJ and something that is definitely associated with us and is particularly notable in some fictional INFJs. And this would be INFJ anger or rage or fury, and how we get into that state of mind. So, when you typically think of a healthy INFJ, one of the last things that comes to mind is somebody tossing over tables or, throwing a photographer against the wall by the throat and choking him out, maybe. And we're often described as sensitive and empathic individuals with a keen eye on future possibilities, that unwavering idealism that even in the darkest times we somehow can navigate those dark waters and find a way out and get back on the path that we so long for. But like everybody else, we have a dark side. But in this case, is our dark side really dark, or is it more gray? So, that being said, and yes, I had to take notes for this one, there are certain kinds of things that, make INFJs angry. It's not a script, it's just bullet points, by the way. INFJs, we tend to be patient people. Before reacting to an offense, we're going to mull over our minds and make sure we're not being rash or impulsive. So, of course, like everything else, we're going to overthink. INFJs, we are not the type of people that are going to shoot from the hip, pretty much ever. At least healthy ones. Even drunk, we don't shoot from the hip. I've tried. So, as always, we look for patterns, underlying meanings, hidden agendas before we focus on our own subjective feelings regarding the situation. We also analyze the logic of the situation, that thought process in our head goes something like, does it make sense that I'm angry? What are the facts? How do the patterns I've noticed fit together? What's happening now? So INFJs, we tend to get stuck in analysis paralysis, like that, before we react to something. On the outside, we might appear unreadable or lost in thought when trying to process these emotions. And when we finally decided to express our anger, the situation may have deflated or passed by, though probably not. I know from my own experience, when I'm trying to work through anger and I'm trying not to just explode into an explosive rant on the moment, which is something I've been doing since the 90s and often, have been slandered as insane for, by the way, by my boomer relatives, because they know all, and despite the fact that I've been psychologically tested way more extensively than anybody in my family due to the amount of emergency services and government jobs that I've applied for. But what I do, like, my eyes will lock down tight, my left fist will clench, and that's how I'm, trying to process things as quickly as I can. So, what are things that make us the angriest? And this list, I'm going to say, these things, in my personal experience, there really won't be much of an analysis. These things are like flipping a switch and will send me off into a fire-spitting rant, and I will often do what I think I described before as spotlighting. I don't even know if this is a real INFJ thing, it's a me thing maybe, is, in the things that I'm describing. If someone's doing that to somebody, I will quickly analyze the person doing it, the abuser, and I will shine a spotlight, as I described, onto their deepest insecurities, flaws, fears, everything, and expose that. And I'll do that almost subconsciously. And usually when I do, and it's not something I do lightly, it's, I consider it like launching a Davy Crockett. The person who I'm doing it against will either break down in tears or come at me swinging. So, what are things that make INFJs the angriest and can send people into a rant, in my opinion? And this also explains the thumbnail, which the thumbnail is a great example of a fictional INFJ who displayed INFJ Rage perfectly, not just in how it was done, but what set it off. In the same way that, like, Fox Mulder is a great example of INFJ humor, or Lisa Simpson is a great example of what it's like to grow up as an INFJ, or how, Charles Xavier is probably the best fictional example of, an INFJ using their introverted intuition, albeit to a superhero level. But anyway, Rack, I'm actually going to say the list now. What are the things that make us the angriest? A violation of one's core values, i.e. a violation of somebody's integrity or boundaries, getting somebody to do something they don't want to do. Bullying, hazing, or name-calling, that one hits a little home. Extreme rudeness, having our ideas or insights dismissed or ignored. This happened to me a lot growing up because, as I explained, in Chester County, if you're born after 1964, you know nothing. You could have, a master's degree in a certain subject, but you automatically know less than a baby boomer with only a high school education because they're a baby boomer. They're superior. That's all they need. They were born that way. It's, we are the gods. A lack of empathy. Yeah, we can spot out sociopaths pretty well, and we tend to call them out, especially if they're trying to take advantage of somebody we care about. We'll call them out regardless if the person they're trying to take advantage of is someone we care about or not. But when it's someone we care about, we'll be quicker to physical violence if need be. Justified physical violence. As an example, if some sociopathic douchebag guy, slaps your female friend, at that point, it is justified to punch him in the face. You are defending somebody against a physical attack. At least in the United States. I don't know what the self-defense laws are in other countries, but in the United States, most likely you wouldn't get done for that. But, who knows? Every cop is different, I guess, and I don't know, what your own personal record is. So don't take my word on it. That's just my opinion. Not seeing progress on a goal. So if we feel like we're spinning our wheels, not getting anywhere, doing everything we're supposed to do, and they keep moving the goalpost on us. Boomer Boss is real good at that one. Not being able to envision what's likely going to happen, that's more of a frustration anger, because without our intuition guiding us, we're lost, as Godsmack would say, I'm running blind, somebody help me see, I'm running blind. It's a good song. I told you in another video I can't sing anymore. My voice is ravaged by laryngitis and cigarettes from when I smoked. I miss singing. Too much overstimulation or noise, like if we're just in a club with maybe like an acquaintance or two with no deep conversation, that'll drain the battery real quick, and that'll cause that panic anger, like, I gotta get out of here. Interruptions, if we're trying to make a point and somebody keeps interrupting us because we're not allowed to talk or not allowed to be right, again, another thing the boomers are really good at. Closed-mindedness, so, people that don't think for themselves, that are just like, I live in Chester County, I vote Republican, gay people bad, women fall in line because that's not how it's supposed to be. Well, and you give the person benefit of the doubt, well, why? That's how it's supposed to be. Any closed-mindedness, like how someone is just set in their beliefs, whatever they may be, but they can't even explain why they believe the things they do. It's just, that's what I was told, and I fall in line because that is what you are supposed to do. Boomers be praised, kind of thing. A lot of that in Chester County, especially when I was in high school and stuff. A lot of arguments ensued from closed-mindedness. A lot of fights because people would pick on my friends who were gay, and then I'd fight them, and then they'd leave them alone because I wouldn't get in any trouble because they were picking on someone who was gay. So, so the principal would be like, well, what can I do to him? Very frustrating for the good old boys back then. And the big one. This one will send any INFJ into a blind rage and fury. And there's a couple parts to it. Broadly speaking, abuse, but especially sexual abuse, sexual assault, people being backed into a corner to be exploited and made them feel like they can't say no. If someone is in that situation and an INFJ is there to see it or is even told about it shortly after, there's going to be fury and probably violence. In my experience, if there's ever a way, to get me to fight somebody, that's it. Partially due because I was sexually assaulted myself at age 17 while I was in the modeling industry, and I know the toll that takes on one psychologically. But those things, especially when they try to justify it as it's paying your dues or that's how it is and, everybody goes through it. I've seen boomer women defend boomer men who have sexually assaulted, then girls, because we were teenagers my age, because of how great they are and their name and their wealth and their fame. Yeah, really sick, huh? I'm trying to hold it down, but I'm getting a little angry just thinking about it. But I want to finish this video, and well, maybe I should show you INFJ. No, I'm not going to get myself into a fury because I won't be able to bring it down. So, INFJ anger, that is the core of it. That's, what gets it to come to the surface. Certain things can have it come to the surface faster than others, but when it boils up and erupts, it's a sight to be seen. So there's some other factors behind it. So what do you do when you feel the rage? Because let's be honest, as I would say the majority of the time, that's why I call it not a part of your dark side, it's more gray, because a lot of times it's justified because you're standing up when nobody else will. And because you're most likely doing it alone, as I did many times, you need that fury in order to be shown that you won't be messed with, that you can protect that person, that you can cause things to change. You have to be feared. Okay, if that makes sense. But what to do when maybe your INFJ anger is, not justified, or maybe to a degree it is, but it doesn't warrant going nuclear. So a lot of things can express how we express our anger too. Usually in the beginning we'll get more withdrawn in our head when we're angry, and we might try to shut off the noise, the lights, just basically escape into our own head and shut down, stop talking, try to get out of the situation. This is, we're talking in an arguments, where it's back and forth with words. Nobody's been assaulted or abused or exploited. This is just, we're talking like rudeness, misogyny, racism, sexism, all things that send us into a rage. But, when I'm saying to bring it down, at this point we're talking about when it's just words. So some people may see this, as passive aggressive, or we're giving people the silent treatment. No, we're trying to calm ourselves down so, so we don't knock someone out. Because, as INFJs, we support equal rights for all. Things like oppression and misogyny and racism and double standards and anti-gay things, or, Christian theocracy just piss us off. This this idea that certain people are superior just because of who they are, or my personal favorite, baby boomer supremacism, because they're superior because because of the year they were born, and their actions don't matter. It's just by definition, they were born to rule. It's like I said, it's divine right of kings bullshit that most of society got past with Magna Carta, not the baby boomers, because they're the gods returned, the Anunnaki returned, the gods descended from Mount Olympus, the mother race risen from the ruins of Atlantis, that kind of thing, at least in their minds. And you can get them wound up enough, they'll pretty much even say that. Fun little game. So, how to help an INFJ who is angry. And, these things work to varying degrees, and no one will work all the time. Reduce your sensory stimulation. Turn off bright lights. I personally turn on loud music to vent. That's just me. Obviously, our biggest one, alone time to process emotions. Take a break from non-essential responsibilities. Like, don't do busy. If you're in a rage, the last thing in the world you should be doing is busy work to look busy. Find someone who you can vent to, who understands you and won't judge you for expressing this kind of rage at these things. Like, basically someone, who understands what you're going through, why you're pissed off, who's also empathetic and understanding and gets pissed off at a lot of the same things you do. Hi ENFJs, this is where you come in. Journal, write it down. That's also keeps a track of noticing patterns that may become relevant later. Especially in a workplace, I highly recommend, if there's somebody abusing somebody in some way, keep a journal of what they did, the date, the time, and who witnessed it. Trust me, I just trust me on that. Just do it. Learn from what I did not. It's kind of one of the main points of this channel. Follow through on your promises and commitments, and try to keep calm and clear. Meditate. Do what you can. And again, I'm talking in situations where your anger may be over the top. There are times where your full-fledged nuclear fury is justified, and I know most people won't tell you that. And when I say that, as a disclaimer, I'm saying, yes, of course, you have the right to explode into a fire-spitting INFJ rant, as I've done since the 90s, and speak your mind. And call people hypocrites, and call them misogynists, and call them racists, and call them bigots, the whole gambit. You have every right to do that, no matter how, old, rich, powerful, famous the person who you're calling out is. However, my other disclaimer is while I said in certain situations, the only thing that you can do to de-escalate the situation may be physical violence, all I'm going to say is you have to trust your own intuition on that. You can, your INFJs, a situation where physical violence is warranted and when it's not. I'm not going to tell you what it is, nor am I going to be held liable if, somebody calls you a name and you beat them to a pulp. The situations that is justified. So while INFJ Rage can get us into a lot of trouble potentially, and I don't just mean physically, I mean because we speak our mind, remember, there's going to be times where you're going to hold back and think, I can't say this because of who this person is. But if you don't, the abuse will continue for whoever that, untouchable person's victim is. And your empathy won't allow that. Okay? So, if nobody else is speaking up and you're hesitating to, remember, integrity is doing the right thing even at your own detriment. And it's going to haunt you if you don't do the right thing. So step up and be the one who calls it out. usually other people will follow. Nobody wants to be first. And yeah, occasionally we have to step up into leadership roles, at least temporarily, and we're not the best at that. But in these situations, you have to do it. Remember, when unleashing your INFJ rage, trust your intuition as to what level is warranted. And when unleashing your rage, of course, don't sell out your integrity. Make sure the situation calls for it. Double listen to your intuition on this one. And, please like and subscribe.